Welcome to another episode of Coach's Corner. Today I have a multifaceted individual in the boxing world today. Coach Johnny Callas at Akoba Boxing, Charter Oak Boxing in Hartford. Welcome, Coach. We appreciate you coming down today.
Great to be here. My pleasure and honor.
Coach Callas is not only a coach, he's a professional referee. He has served on the National Collegiate Athletic Board for boxing. He's been a three-time All-American at Central Connecticut State as a boxer.
Always love to hear that.
As a collegiate boxer. He is a member of our Hall of Fame in Connecticut, an inductee there. Coach Callas is well revered and well known throughout the boxing world. Based out of Hartford, so I am real happy to have him here today. And, you know, it's just a pleasure because the people that do know you know what you bring to the table and what you do in this sport.
Thank you, Dave. I appreciate that. And it's my pleasure and honor. Yeah. When you gave me a call,
definitely
make it happen. I'm there.
I mean, Coach, you know, we need to have different looks in this world of boxing here. So here on Coach's Corner, we've had fighters. I've had women who've written books, women fighters. Mm-hmm. I've had attorneys. You know, we try to give a different look, not exactly with the fighters. You bring so much to the table, not only that you're big in the amateur boxing here in the state of Connecticut and throughout, but, you know, also your experience as a referee. Now we're starting to see the collegiate boxing start to bloom.
Yeah.
And I know you're a big
time in Connecticut, actually.
Yeah, very big. A lot of schools picking it up. But let's get to you.
Sure.
You know, everybody has their story how boxing gets us. You know, and what I say is, we don't find boxing; boxing finds us.
Absolutely.
So, what was your gravitation towards the sport? And
Sure. It's interesting. My Uncle Bill, my mother's brother, was a big-time boxing guy. Loved Joe Louis. Well, big-time boxing fan.
Right.
Loved Joe Louis. And he always thought that I was too much of a mama's boy, which I might add was not the case. But nonetheless, I remember him showing me, I had to be 7 years old, you know, how to stand, how to hold my hands, how to lead with my weaker hand, my jab, and that sort of thing. And outside of that, you know, watching ABC Wide World of Sports, Danny Little Red Lopez, Salvador Sanchez, who in my opinion is like the Jesus Christ of boxing, and Duran.
You're throwing some names out there for a lot of people.
Yeah, and all those guys. I'm like, man, I could do that. I could do this. I was always a super competitive kid because I was teeny and super bossy, and, you know, I like ran the neighborhood and that sort of thing. So I would beg my friends to box with me. If I went over somebody's house in Hartford and they had boxing gloves or their older brothers had that boxing blood, I'd beg them. Right. You know, I'd box in basements, I'd box in garages, I'd box in backyards. And I grew up in Foster Heights section of Hartford, very blessed for that. And we were all about sports and humor at any cost.
Right.
But sports. So, so basically I never formally boxed because my dad did not know where to take me until I went to college. But it was just, it's no doubt, you know, my blessing and my gift.
But Hartford in those days was a big boxing town. A lot of fighters coming out of Hartford back then.
Well, what's funny, and it's a typical tale of America in two cities, is I'm in the Foster Heights section of Hartford. Literally right over the avenue is the Charter Oak Terrace, which is at that time, it was no longer there, which was one of the most violent, you know, infant mortality rate, AIDS. I mean, one of the worst. It was like Watts. It was like the Watts of Hartford, and Mac Buckley's gym was there, and but my dad didn't know where to take me. He didn't know that. I was surprised he didn't know, you know, take me to Johnny Duke's. But anyways, we're in a bubble. We're literally a half a mile away from Charter Oak Terrace, which ended up, in my opinion, shaping me. But the beautiful thing was all the kids from the Terrace, all the kids from Foster Heights, all channeled into bachelor school. It was grammar school, K through 8, all the way up to middle school. And that definitely made a huge difference in my life, you know. And so when I was looking to make a new program or start a program back in 1987, I basically at first was going to do it in even a tougher project, Stowe Village in the North End, because there was availability. But then it didn't work out, which was a blessing. George Cruz actually slipped his way in there, and they said to me, the housing authority director said, "Oh, well, you want to go with George?" And I'm like, "No way, man. I'm my own man. I do things my own way. George, whatever is great, that sort of thing. I'll go over and get half the equipment like you promised, and I'll take that little 600 square room in Charter Oak Terrace in the, Hartford Housing Authority YMCA Youth Development Center."
Yeah.
And I literally started COBA in a room probably 4 times the studio size. That's it.
Yeah, it seems like, look, coming out of New York, we boxed in the apartment buildings. We had a gym in the projects, and I would bring fighters out of Westchester County to spar there, and they were like, "Where are we going?" "We're going through an alley, down around a building, in the boiler room."
Yeah, right. Whatever.
And the gym was there. Little space was given to us.
Well, Mac's gym was in Charter Oak on the ABC side of the project, which was, just as unfortunately plagued with stuff for the poor families and people that struggled with all the issues and the violence and whatnot and the drugs. But his gym, legendary, was, like you're describing, in the basement of the community center that was, again, probably 600 square feet, with not even a great ring. I mean, ropes. And
ropes on the floor.
And shit, they produced Marlon Starling, Tyrone Booz, Troy Wortham, a million other amateurs that, maybe didn't go pro, but were phenomenal.
But we're in the gym.
Yeah, you were in the gym and phenomenal.
Yeah, and
phenomenal amateurs.
In those days, differently, like, what we see is interesting you should say that. We know, both of us, that there were guys in the gym that didn't go pro.
Right.
That were good amateurs,
yeah,
right? And they were in that gym every day. You had to work with them.
Right.
They made the pros, or they made the guys who moved up a lot better.
Right. He that gym probably had to be one of the best gyms ever in the history of Connecticut. I would imagine, certainly the Willie Pep's gym and that whole era and that sort of thing. But it was that what they produced was absolutely phenomenal. But my dad was unaware of that. I grew up in Foster Heights. It was like definitely a more of a upper middle class neighborhood, politically corrected, connected, this and that. We were blessed. The bubble, the tale of two cities. Yeah. So, but the blessing was we all went to Bachelor. And,
So at Central in those days, you guys had a team.
CCSU had one of the best collegiate boxing teams in the entire country. And it all was because of our coach, Billy Taylor.
Yeah.
Billy Taylor started coaching us when he was like 82 years old. Billy Taylor could lay out on a table at 82 and do no-handed push-ups. Literally extends his hands over his head, legs that way, and all of a sudden his body's coming up and down. And that to do that with the body control at 82 is just unbelievable. He was a Hartford legend back in the day, Hartford High in the 50s, 60s, whatever. 4-letter man, played a million sports, was the best at all of them, and became a phys ed teacher in the Hartford school system, and was the first guy ever to introduce boxing into a public school system.
Wow.
So he and all the big politicos that came from there, just revered him, and justly so, as I did immediately. Within 6 months, I'm like, wow, this guy's unbelievable. I'd take a bullet for him, whatever he would do or say. So he was a interestingly enough, former pro fighter back in the day. His hands were mangled. You could see that he broke his hands, broke his fingers, never got them fixed, so they were like tree trunks. He'd make a move on you and do this. It felt like you got hit with a pile of concrete. But Billy was the man, and we had a group of guys from 82 to 86 that were just good to go, would take on everybody, didn't care what academy they were from. And, we all had some natural talent. And my dear, dear friend, Paulie Morasso, God rest his soul, total badass, Paulie won the first national championship in '84. I finished second. Next year, '85, I won the second national championship. Then we had Billy Seidman, who literally was on UNR, and his uncle lived in Hartford, said, oh, no, forget UNR. Okay, and they're loaded, casino money, this and that, totally taken care of, beautiful uniforms. Here's us guys, like ragtag stuff. He freaking shipped them over to Central. And Billy Seidman ended up becoming the third national champ. But in that time, from '82 to, I would say, the late '80s, we produced and pulled down easily over 35 All-American certificates.
See,
and here's the thing, I got to say it. In 1984, when I unfortunately lost my first national championship, we almost dethroned the U.S. Air Force Academy for the national title.
Wow.
We missed it by 2 points. Us and our brother's school, sister school, Lock Haven, PA, which is kind of like home for us because there was no boxing in Connecticut. None, just us. UConn had a team, but they weren't really doing it.
Not like now.
No. And so Lock Haven and CCSU, these little hole-in-the-wall schools, 2 points, we would have dethroned the U.S. Air Force Academy. By the way, who's won, I think, 42 years.
Yeah.
You know.
The military, I mean, you look, they got big teams, big support. You know, funny, if I knew they had a boxing team, I visited Central Connecticut as a baseball player. I was invited up there. If I knew it, might have switched my,
right.
But, wow, I mean, boxing wasn't as prevalent out there as it is today.
Right.
There's more gyms out there today.
Right.
And look, your exposure to boxing is similar to mine. My father sent me there for conditioning.
Yeah.
There was, there were no Planet Fitnesses. There were no Equinox clubs, out there.
Right.
It was the local boxing gym.
Right.
And that's what I was sent into.
Yeah.
But to hear that story about how, a small school like Central Connecticut producing fighters, and, a program. And I read about Billy Taylor and, as a coach and what, he brought to – and this is the thing with the sport, right? There's so many names and so many mentors in this sport, right? We see the mainstream guys out there, right? Everybody sees the guys on TV, the big gyms, wild card, this one, whatever.
Right.
But the mentors in this sport are the Billy Taylors.
Absolutely.
We can name different
Daves.
names. Guys that don't – we're out there just working for the love of the sport. Yourself,
absolutely.
You know what I mean? Mentoring kids and trying to see some progress not only in boxing but in life.
Absolutely.
Because it kind of goes hand in hand.
Absolutely. There's no doubt.
I mean, your program up there, Charter Oaks, Boxing Academy, is very different than most of them. So let's talk about that. Then I want to talk about your segue into refereeing.
Okay,
but I want to hear about the program and how it came about and your thoughts when you were building it.
Right. Absolutely. So it's funny. After I graduated, I took a little time off, immediately got fat, and then got a call from Dr. Ken Cox, another great guy, Lock Haven State University, Golden Glove Hall of Fame, just a phenomenal man. Beautiful man. And he's like, Johnny, we're going to Russia. We're taking a team to Russia. And they're going to be good. And they're going to pull a lot of shit. So we need some, the old boys. We need some, so offered me the trip. Paulie Morasso, my killer dear buddy.
What weight were you fighting at in those days?
125.
Oh.
Yeah, 125. And I would typically weigh in under that too. So I think for my last national championship fight, I came in at like 123. Yeah. Totally overtrained, but nonetheless.
Yeah. Ready to go.
Oh yeah, always. So so basically, did this Peace Through Sports tour, and that was an awesome thing because at that time in collegiate boxing, Dr. Ken Cox from Lock Haven put together international trips and would take like a national all-star team. And I got to go on every single trip.
Nice.
And it was the greatest teacher.
Yeah, the nice experience at all.
Oh, my God. Represent the United States, represent your college, meet other great boxers from around the world, be part of that fraternity, get in there and win some, lose some. get robbed some, but it doesn't matter. It's all good. It's all good. So I was blessed. I boxed in Brunei, Southeast Asia, on the island of Borneo. It was the most incredible trip of my life. It was like something out of a fantasy book. We were treated like kings. We were the first sports team from America there. The Sultan of Brunei was the richest guy in the world. They treated us like we were dignitaries, like gold, you know? So we were able to do these trips, went to Russia, that sort of thing, and that continued for a while. But after Russia, I was coming back, and Billy said to me on the plane, he said, I'm thinking of stepping down. I think he had to be like 89, 90. Yeah. Still could do the push-ups. And he said, I'd like to see you take over. And I said, you got it, coach. You got it. I'd love to take over. I'm not going to go pro. Worked out in pro gyms, Yeah. I don't think I got the punch. I'm turning my way, and I already had started making moves to start a gym.
Okay.
And so basically what happened was in '88, I actually combined CCSU boxing, Blue Devil boxing, with my Inner City USA boxing program. And like I said, we ended up in Charter Oak Terrace, in literally an 800 square foot room that was previously had a pool table in it, and everybody was dealing drugs. And now 6 months after that, I ended up joining Department of Children and Families, DCF, the Vietnam of social work.
Right.
And just loving it. Totally loving it. Fine, I'm blessed, I think, because my parents were with some pretty good empathy, and I'm a non-judgmental guy, and I'm pretty self-assured, and I love kids, and I love people. And so COBA is kind of and I'm so blessed, it's kind of like my canvas that's intertwined with boxing, and you could say social work or lifestyle.
Right.
And bottom line is boxing is the greatest metaphor and vehicle to teach kids about life, if they can do it. If they want, Yeah,
we need the kid to be involved. We're not pushing them in. If they jump in and they engage with you.
Right. But as you know, if I ran it, if it was strictly a competitive gym, my numbers would be much lower. However, I use that vehicle, and all of our coaches are on board to help teach life. Then on top of that, I'm a passionate guy. Had to go for it all. So, I swung a deal with other colleges, and I said, okay, we're going to handle your boxing programs. We're going to take you on the NCBA circuit and, give you world-class experience. Well, you're going to mentor our kids. You're going to tutor our kids. You're going to take my kids on your campuses to show them what college is all about, so that they can see if they work hard, this is something that they deserve and are entitled to. Because the bottom line is, as we've talked before, it's 1 in a zillion that make it in pro boxing.
It's like
one in a zillion.
It's like any other sport, and look, we both know this. Boxing humbles you.
Absolutely.
Whether you're a pro fighter or an amateur fighter or a guy just training in the gym, you're going to get humbled at some point.
Absolutely.
And you have to learn to work on your own. You have to learn to work through adversity.
Right.
And it is part of life. We coach. You get one kid who's that possibility of going pro, great.
Right.
It's like a diamond in the rough. We're coaching everybody else. We're coaching kids not only to be fighters, but to be good people.
Yeah. Our thing at COBA is, listen, we're proud boxing people.
You guys,
like you said, national champ, 3-time All-American. Trust me, and I was a real competitive, fierce kind of boxer.
Well,
so
you guys are still competitive.
Oh,
your
yeah.
program, your program comes. When you guys come to events, you're always competitive. Even your beginning guys, the guys that have been with you in the program for a while, and girls. Don't let me miss out the girls, because I know there are some great girls up there too.
Yes.
But your preparation, your look, your organization says a lot.
Appreciate it.
And I think that's important in sports, okay? And we lose that identity in boxing because boxing's an individual sport.
Right.
But you know what? Look good as a team.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Have what you need. It gives you a sense of pride.
Absolutely.
I know when I was a kid and I played for certain teams and they gave you that jersey or that jacket, you wore it like it was.
Of course.
And I can see your
It was a badge
guys,
of honor.
Yeah, it's a badge of honor. And you guys would your uniforms and your girls all
Yeah.
travel, and
Yeah.
you look impressive coming in.
Thank you. And it's an identity.
Yeah.
And when I started the program, I said, I'm naming this an academy because I want kids to come here to aspire to greater things and to feel better about themselves and to have that confidence. And that's why I went with Charter Oak Boxing Academy instead of gym.
So let's speak about the academy part, okay? Because we know about the boxing part, and you have many great coaches up there, and I'm just gonna shout them all out because I know you have so many people helping you up there.
Blessed.
But when people who haven't been to your facility, there's classrooms.
Yes.
You have PowerPoints in there. You go over.
Laptops.
Walk us through the back end of what.
Sure.
If they're not boxing, what does a member of your academy have to do?
Well, we say that we do a 2-hour orientation with parents and kids on a Saturday morning, and our packet is literally like joining the CIA, I think. I mean, releases, are you involved in the juvenile justice system? Are you involved with Department of Children and Families? What are your loves? What do you look to? I mean, the whole thing. And because what we tell them is, as long as you can do, and we have red signs up all over the gym, says red. I'm not a rocket scientist. Respect, effort, discipline. And I say, I don't care if you're black, white, purple, you come in here with one leg or in a wheelchair, like our boy. Gay, straight, this, that, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
If you come, the beautiful thing about a boxing gym, and you'll find this out, parents, you're not going to realize that there's more love in a boxing gym and support than you'll ever find in any other sport. And as long as your child can come in here, respect everybody and everything, give at least 100% effort, and have enough discipline just to follow instructions and do what they're told, which, there's a lot more to discipline than that, they're in. They will get the full benefits of the program. So with the program, I use the analogy, the pro analogy. Okay, Holyfield did, I think, really revolutionized it when, he was boxing and he has his nutritionist, has his cook, has his spiritual leader, probably has a psychologist, has his strengths coach, this and that. So I use that, and I'm like, we're going to surround you with an entourage of people and experts who are going to look out for your best interests. So some of the things we've done, last year we were able to get a grant. We're a total nonprofit, 2,000%, totally dedicated to the kids. Right. All our money goes
Everything's kicked back into the program.
Kid, yeah.
Yeah.
So 3 years ago, when the George Floyd horrible tragedy, racial stuff happened and perked up, we actually brought in a program, NCCJ, very well-renowned program, did a whole series with our kids on multi-generational racism, how to cope with racism, how to deal with racism. Last year, we were able, through the Cigna Foundation, to actually land a nice-sized grant, and lucky, I believe in karma. I was able to reel in Dr. Brett Rayford, who is like the GOAT of adolescent urban psychology and working with young men, and then reel in an LCSW woman, Monica Alvarenga, and we literally, 110 of our kids got assessed for anxiety, depression, suicidality, the whole bit. We did, the stuff that you do on a clinical unit that, I'm obviously familiar with, Ohio scales, grit scales. And then with that, we also, as a comprehensive program, we actually then had seminars too to have the parents and kids come in to try to destigmify it all. To try to, hey man, everybody's got their strengths and weaknesses and stuff to deal with. You nothing to be ashamed about, Yeah. Then we, in addition to that, brought in a meditation group to teach meditation and breathing, and a yogi. And basically we said, these are the type of things you need to do rather than go hit the streets and do drugs or deal drugs or blah, 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 or whatever, or be self-destructive, whatever.
Yeah, giving them outlets and avenues to look at alternatives.
Other alternatives, exactly. So that was awesome. This year, and by the way, my goal still has not been reached. My goal is to have a place 6 times bigger than the current Coba, which I'm blessed. It's 4,200 square feet.
Yeah, you guys got a beautiful facility.
I love my facility. But we ran out of space 3 weeks in. One of my kids came to me and goes, Coach, you don't have enough space. I wanted to strangle him.
Yeah.
You know? I'm like, yeah, it just took me 30 years. Or whatever, 25 years.
Well, that shows that you're doing something right. You're running out of space.
Yeah. So my dream is to have all these components going at once. You know, the Trinity, the mental health piece, the mentoring piece. We do life skills with our kids.
Yeah, I think that's big.
Adventure-based learning. Our boys are going out to the Delaware Gap next Monday.
I think the life skills things is big because I think we don't see that in the regular schools every day.
Right.
You know what I mean? And look, not everybody's a student, okay?
No question.
But everybody still needs life skills.
Absolutely.
Your program, how hard is it for a kid to get into your program?
Not hard at all. Unfortunately, because we have limited space and whatnot, we usually have a waiting list of at least 30 to 50 kids. We do quarterly, for the most part, quarterly orientations, and we'll bring folks on every quarter. So now they're in. I don't care where you're coming. We've had kids come straight from psychiatric hospitals. We've had kids come from, clinical places, obviously the schools, juvenile justice, DCF, and just really mostly the neighborhood. And they're all great kids. Yeah. The inner city kids, for me, are our most challenged but precious resource. And if you just give them a little bit of support, like we try to do, and punch in those gaps, you've got kids who will excel.
Listen, you gotta be, yourself. You gotta be consistent with them, right? And you're giving them a lot of opportunities that maybe that they wouldn't get anywhere else, and exposing them to things that other people might be writing them off. Right. And look, we all have issues, right? It's whether you're an inner city kid or not. We're all dealing with something.
Absolutely.
But let's find a way. Yeah, let's find a way. Right. And your network out there is big.
I'm blessed. In the ring and out of the ring.
Right.
Just now this year I brought in, and again, this friend of mine, a retiree, Pam Cranford, awesome, total franchise player. She actually, along with Dr. Rayford, put about 7,000 DCF kids through college within the department. Yeah, we do a lot of good stuff over there. It's a lot of much beyond.
A lot of behind the scenes stuff that people that they don't hear about.
And that's our whole thing. Our whole thing is, listen, and I say it to parents and I say it to people, let's keep it real. I'm here to keep your kid alive, out of gangs, off drugs, off the street, in school, and moving to some form of higher education. Like you said, college isn't for everybody, but
trade schools, whatever.
Trade schools, trade schools, civil servants, cops, firemen, this, that.
Military, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I brought Pam in. I was able to reel her out of retirement, and so that's our big push now. She is literally meeting with every single one of our kids and doing seminars and whatnot to show our kids from middle school on up, these are all the possibilities you could do after high school.
Right.
And for those kids who are juniors and seniors, she's working one-on-one with them to identify where they want to go, what they want to do, and help them get in. Because getting into college and doing all that stuff,
it's a whole process.
Oh,
a whole process on it. So what are the parents like? So now you're meeting with kids. What are you getting any reverb? Are you getting any,
Since it's interesting, since day one, which was very reassuring, I would have grandmothers and parents bring me their kids in Charter Oak and say, Coach, whatever you have to do, he's all yours, or she's all yours. I remember one grandma was like, if you want to hit him, hit him. And I'm like, oh, we don't do that.
We're not going to do that.
We don't do that.
Unless it's foreign.
Yeah, right. That'll take care of itself.
But see, I think, what's interesting there, and I was talking to somebody, I actually was at the coaches meeting up at Louis Rosa's.
Yeah.
And I think it was Martin Chisholm who brought this up.
Oh, Martin.
And shout out to him.
Yes.
We're talking about coaches and teachers. We, as coaches in the boxing gym, can talk to kids differently than teachers can.
Oh, no doubt.
And not in a malicious way.
No.
And I sat back and I said, he's right about that. Because, we kind of have a little bit of that hard love. We're not going to put a kid in a situation or an abusive thing, but like, hey, if you're not doing what you're supposed to do, there's the door.
Right.
I don't need an email from your parents, and I don't need a note. You can go, like you said.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and I learned from when I boxed for Billy what a profound and powerful relationship that was, between myself and my coach, and how it affected me in and out of the ring. And I wanted to bring, that opportunity and that experience to kids.
Right.
The kids that were from Charter Oak that I grew up with, as well as that relationship, because our relationship is so powerful, and we're everything from a parent to a teacher to a psychologist to and it's like that in the pros as well.
Yeah, well, you guys are wearing different hats up there too, more so than maybe some of the other guys.
True.
But you're right. A coach is more You're dealing with a person, guy, boy or girl, one-to-one for a lot of hours a week.
Yeah.
A good coach is going to know what ticks in that person. They're going to know their little tells, and you have to find a way to manage that personality.
Right.
That's like we manage personalities, right?
Sure.
We're not just coaches, right? Okay.
Right.
Today, Johnny's not really doing too good. He had a bad day in school.
Right.
We got to delve through that before practice or what we're doing.
Yeah.
And find a way to motivate them.
Absolutely.
Get inside their head.
Right. I think as coaches we have such a powerful position. And, there was a Jewish psychologist back in the late 60s, early 70s, Hainin Ganat, came from Israel over here, wrote a bunch of really great books, Parent and Child, Teacher and Child. And he said, you in the United States have it so backwards in your educational school system. I've been in your educational school system for 5 years now, and you don't realize the power you have as a teacher. You have the power to build a kid up and help him ascend, and you have the power to totally ruin this kid.
Yeah.
And that's something I have a thing I'd show my coaches, and it's the truth. I mean, I saw early on, 1988, if I came in I would go to DCF, hardcore investigations, leave at 5, always get there at 5:15 or 5:30, always late. And, and I could see it. If I was worked up and I had a short temper or something, I looked in his eyes and I could see it. I was well aware of that. And the difference that we can make in a kid's life. And I said, man, I got to check myself. I got to do a personal inventory, all the time, because it's the truth. And, at COBA, we come from a strengths-based approach, positive approach. I mean, listen, we're pretty tough, too, when it comes to skills and this and that, and probably too tough. But, we try to keep it positive.
When you're dealing with kids, you got to go with a positive approach.
Absolutely.
Because at the end of the day, look, you're doing what you love. I'm doing what I love. We coach out of passion.
Yes.
Like, my thing is this. The gym is my happy place, okay? And I'm sure the same way.
Totally.
If I got to come into that gym and unhappy or not wanting to be there, that's the day I got to decide.
Right.
And take a self-inventory of myself and say, do I want to be coaching?
Right.
Because you don't, you got kids looking up to you, whether they're going to be fighters or not. We got all levels of kids like you.
Absolutely.
Love the sport, want to hear, and they're impressionable at that time.
Oh, completely.
And look, you got to walk the walk and talk the talk.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of our kids, as you know, single mother households, don't have dads. So many of my kids have. It's interesting how they cope with that, or if their dad's not in the house, or a remote dad, or a dead dad. There's a lot of father issues to deal with.
Yeah, you got a lot of scenarios going on in the world today,
Right.
especially when you're coaching kids.
Right.
Outside, there's a lot of influences outside of the gym that are happening.
Right.
And you got to try to find a way to navigate through that.
Right.
I think it comes from, like, talking to you, your background, the people that mentored you were similar to the people that mentored us, myself.
Yes,
you know what I mean? They for the love of the game.
Love of the game, absolutely.
There were no programs. These guys, men were coaching for love of the sport, whatever sport it was at that time. They weren't making a lot of money or barely anything.
Barely anything.
Running
their gyms, paying out of their pockets because for the love of the game, love of the kids, love of boxing.
Yeah, I mean, boxing is like, people talk to us, they're like, oh, you put so much time in. Yeah, if you broke down the time, it's
forget it.
I said, but you have to put the time in. What's the difference if someone is successful at work and works, 15 hours a day as a coach, being in the gym 10 to 12 hours every day, building a fighter?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, we wish you guys great things up there, and I know.
Thank you.
For a lot of people don't know, the college scene is building here in Connecticut, which I'm very excited to see.
Yes.
And I think that's a big thing to come, because there are a lot of kids that can box in college.
Absolutely.
And it gets them to see around the country different things, tournaments, different coaches, and everything else.
Yeah.
And
it teaches them about life no differently. I mean, I think the great Billy Kahn said every kid should have to do mandatory boxing for 2 years of their life, like it's the military, for what it's going to teach you about life, what it's going to impart to you as far as, discipline, work ethic, ... And like you said, the things that people always forget, for me, the two most important things to shaping this kid into a beautiful human being is it gives you self-esteem, humility.
all day.
Because the best guy or girl in the gym can't get in that ring, 2-3 days a week, 365 days a year, whatever, and be perfect, or they're going to get their butt kicked also by the worst person in the gym.
Listen, and
it's a beautiful thing.
Of course. And you know what? It humbles us, right?
Yeah.
It makes us deal with adversity.
Absolutely.
You could hide in other sports, right? You could play left field and not have a ball hit to you,
Right.
and you're not feeling it that day, and nobody knows about it.
Right.
But if you're not feeling it in the boxing ring, everybody's going to see it.
Yeah, I say it's the most intimate and revealing sport.
Yeah.
It's like making love in front of 2,000 people. Everything's on the line. There's no denying it. And there's 2,000 people watching you.
Yeah, and as a pro, 3 minutes of your life out there is an eternity.
Yeah, better believe it.
As an eternity. So we're going to kind of segue a little bit to you.
Sure.
Which,
Quick shout out if I could.
Go ahead. Knock it out.
I have to give so much credit where credit is due, and I'm so blessed to have the most incredible group, board of directors, this one,
Yes.
that one, former folks, Sammy Vega, Jeffrey Dressler, just beautiful
Great
people.
coaches up there.
Great coaches, John Scully, Robert Ford, Israel Pito Cardona, Alexis Feliciano. I mean, we have the greatest, in my opinion.
Yeah, you guys got a great team.
I mean, it's ridiculous, and I'm so blessed. But getting that gym built literally took way too long, and for a variety of reasons, not to blame ourselves at all, but it's amazing when you want to do a good thing, you'd think people would open up their arms, but oh boy, not the case. You got to make things happen. But one of our blessings was 10 years ago, one of my dear friends, Zach Karras, who actually, the Greek connection, we were all both of our fathers were lifetime members of the Greek Orthodox Cathedral in Hartford. They helped get it built. And his dad was a great guy. His dad owned the Washington Diner in Hartford. The Washington Diner was like a phenomenon, an institution.
Yeah.
You would have the governor there, the mayor, a prostitute, a pimp.
Everybody, right?
Everybody. It was a beautiful, beautiful
It's
thing.
like sort of like a glorified boxing gym. We had so many different.
Right. And, and he has a love for Hartford, became very successful, hunted me down. And if it wasn't for Zach, we wouldn't be where we are. He said, I'll buy the building for you. The building for you, stepped up, dropped $110K, put another $80K in to help us get going, blah, blah, blah. And then people stepped up. One of my former boxers, Danny Peck, heating and cooling guy, put in a $90,000 system.
Wow.
Let's just get the doors open, coach. I know you'll pay me. Just pay me the whole sale price. And people came out of the woodwork. It was beautiful. But this last Friday, we now own our building.
Congratulations.
Zach was such a, these people, the saints.
Yeah.
The saints. I said, hey, Zach. He held the note, didn't collect a dime. The mortgage is we're probably $500,000. I said, hey, what do you say if I can come up with $110,000? Can we own the building? Yeah, sure. Boom. So we I have a great staff, Lonnie Davison. She's my COO. Oh my God, she was another angel that dropped out of nowhere. And yeah, we pulled it off. So we are now owners of our own building.
One question to that. Where'd the blue and gold come from?
Blue and gold. I actually always loved Naval Academy, and I loved their look. I thought it was awesome, so I stole it.
Okay.
My boy Jimmy McNally, the great coach, great referee, actually, great amateur referee, AIBA referee, but USA boxing referee. But yeah, I stole it straight up, and he actually helped me get the program going. I remember.
Nice.
I remember driving by. The only time I went to Naval Academy was he gave me a bunch of equipment to start with the first gym.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Nice. So we're going to segue to your other hat that you wear.
Sure. Thank you for talking about that, though. I appreciate
your
it.
Your program is, top notch. We wish
Thank you.
lots of luck. And for people out there, if you're in the Hartford area, you can see Charter Oak Boxing from the highway and the blue and gold.
Yes.
Stop in there.
Absolutely.
When they're in operation, you want to open your checkbook up. I'm sure they'll be happy to take some money from you.
Oh, absolutely.
Great program in the city of Hartford, in the state of Connecticut. Great coaching up there.
Thank you.
But for many people don't know you, other than that,
Yeah.
you are a professional referee.
I am blessed. Yes.
Where do you find time with everything else that you're doing?
That's what my wife says.
To become
I'm so lucky.
And what'd you ref? Over 150 bouts at least?
Over
more?
300.
Over 300
Over
now.
300 bouts. And there's the funny thing. Well, now over 500.
Well, it was 150 championship bouts, I think.
I don't know about that many.
Okay.
I'd say.
I got to check my notes again,
Yeah,
but go ahead.
Really? Thank you.
Yeah, I think it was 150 championship bouts.
Title bouts.
Yeah, title bouts.
Generous.
Yeah.
Blessed.
Yeah.
To be in the ring with some of the greatest athletes, legendary Hall of Fame athletes, and what's funny is it's the best seat in the house, and they have to listen to me, or they should listen to me. Not that I'm.
You ref some great bouts with Riker, female fighter.
Yes, I did Lucia Riker.
Lucia Riker.
Pound for pound, the greatest female fighter of all time.
Yes, people don't know her. She was an unbelievable fighter.
Unbelievable.
Okay, you know her from the villain in $1 Million Baby.
Yes, exactly.
That was her, exactly.
Which is classical because she's a devout Buddhist and she's the most loving, healing person in the world. Yeah. And but
they made her a villain in that movie.
In the ring, though, she was.
You've been in with Kodo. The names go on and on and on and
Madison
on.
does huge. Madison Square Garden, HBO.
So how does that come about for you?
Well, it's interesting.
And how do you find it? Like I said in the beginning, you're building Charter Oak, and
I'm building Charter Oak. I'm refereeing in the ring, my kids, that sort of thing, but primarily coaching. Not a lot of people know about this actually. And Mac Buckley at the time had taken over Johnny Datro's gym along with my buddy Eric Miller. And so I was training over there for Russia. Got to know Mac. Mac was a huge, I wasn't one of his fighters. I wasn't from the projects, but he took a liking to me and was really supportive. I think he liked me, saw the integrity, that sort of thing. And I know that he said to John Burns, the then commissioner, who is the greatest hard-ass commissioner ever, said, "Oh, you should have this kid. You should have this kid referee. You should have this kid referee." So Burns, who was aware of knew Billy, came to my fights, saw my amateur career, was aware of Koba, basically reached out to me and said, "Would you like to come on and be a ref?" And I said, stupido, I said, "Mr. Burns, I right now I just started DCF and I just started Koba, and I would not want to make a commitment unless I could totally deliver for you. I would not want you to do that, blah, blah, blah." He actually asked him to be on my board of directors, recruited him and met my board of directors. Right. And so I took a pass. So, but then
they came back at you.
Well, he's the man, and he's over at Mohegan, getting Mohegan going. He's already at Foxwoods, getting Foxwoods going, and I see my contemporaries, jumping on board, and I'm like, you know what? I need to do something for myself for once. Yeah. I need to friggin' take him up on his offer. So that's pretty much. I was an inspector for a few days, a few fights, which was just great memories. I did Vinny Paz's middleweight championship, which was the most classical pre-dressing room world championship fight I've ever been a part of. I mean, Paulie comes in from Rocky, Burt Young.
Yep.
You know, he's got Kevin Rooney and Lou Duva there taking care of him. I mean, it was just utterly hysterical. But when it was go time, man, Paz is a consummate professional. So I did that for a couple of times, and I said, you know, I would like to do more. So Commissioner Burns actually piloted, if you will, on me, a probationary period pilot program. Brought in Steve Smoger, the greatest referee of all time, legend, great guy, and he more or less taught me how to referee and mentored me.
You went right into the to the swimming pool. You're deep end in the water in the pros.
My first fight was ESPN.
Yeah.
ESPN. I did Kippy Diggs against Terry Say, and then another bout. I think it was Rosenblatt, actually. And this other guy who was just brought in, he was an opponent, gave an Oscar-winning performance. And I got to tell you, knew he was faking it. I knew he was faking it. You know, went down. Actually, he was looking to quit a bunch of times. And I said, keep going. That's what Billy Taylor used to say. He used to pick guys up off the floor as a referee back in the day when you would judge fights and ref them. So I'm Mr. Integrity. Come on, let's go, keep going. So then the guy starts working, starts winning, you know, and I'm like, oh man, that feels great. I actually helped this guy get the best of him. You know, I held him accountable. And then sure enough, he ran out of gas. And the next thing you know, he throws himself on the ground and he's halfway out of the ropes and he's like practically seizing. Yeah. You know, I mean, Oscar-winning stuff. And I know he's faking it. And I am like, oh, I shouldn't count him out. I should hold him accountable. And I should friggin' tell the commissioner to take his pay or whatever, blah, 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 blah. And sitting right there is Steve Smoger. And he's looking at me and he's like, just call it. Yeah. But I've never felt more out of place and insecure and unsure of myself in a boxing ring, which I always felt secure in as a fighter, as an amateur. So that was, they took a chance on me. And, I think I evolved into a decent referee. Yeah. And I had Arthur McCanty Sr. was one of my mentors. I worked with Frank Cappuccino a couple of times, which was classical. Yeah. He's like the Frank Sinatra of refereeing. So, I mean, I just consider myself blessed. So blessed. You know?
And I mean, you guys take a lot of heat. You know, I mean, not only from the boxing fans, but, you know, we all know those people out there that they think they know boxing.
Right.
Right? The ref doesn't know what he's doing. It's What are you looking for in a fight as a referee?
In a fight, I'm looking to keep it safe first and foremost, because this guy or girl have to go home to their family, and most likely they're not making a career of this, and they have another life, whether they realize it or not. Mm-hmm. And even if they're an upper-end fighter, it's a 10-year career if they're lucky, high-end fighter, they're not necessarily a Hall of Fame fighter. So I want to keep it safe, and I want to keep it fair, and I also want to stay out as much as possible to let this beautiful sport do its thing, let them grab their own momentum, and bring out the best in each other. And I am proud, first of all, as a boxer, I think that greatly helps me with that piece of my refereeing. Right. Also, I know when someone's dogging it or taking a dive or starting to go legitimately south or hurt and this and that. So I've always felt really blessed with that and self-assured.
You have that instinct because you were a fighter.
Yes, totally.
So that's a whole different dynamic. And no disrespect to any other refs.
No, absolutely.
I don't know, who were fighters and who weren't.
Right.
But you know what? You have that dynamic to see them two individuals. Right. Yeah. Is one going south, is one in a bad way. Right. People say, well, why did the ref call the fight? Yeah. We've all asked this, right? Right. You're in the ring.
Absolutely.
Okay, you as a fighter know when a guy is going.
Right. Amateur pro,
you can see
if you've had if you boxed and been in that ring, which only 2% of the world population ever dares to do unless can do it well, That's the edge. That's a priceless education, and I've always felt that was key for me. But I want to give verbal commands, and not put my hands on the boxers. And I tell them this in the dressing room. And as long as they listen to me, I will be invisible. I didn't work for 8 weeks like you guys did.
Right.
I don't want to be on camera. But if you don't listen to my commands, then I will get in and do my due diligence because I want to keep it safe and fair. And I will get in, break you, whatever. But if I have 2 fighters who are game and great sportsmen, like Abdulaziz and Cotto was a perfect example. Easiest fight I've ever done in my life. Biggest show, Madison Square Garden, day before the Puerto Rican Day Parade. Mohamed Abdulaziz beat him for the gold medal in the Olympics. It's a fight, and Abdulaziz, I don't know where he went after that because he was a good fighter, real good fighter. Easiest fight of my life. I remember Harold Letterman goes, I got to tell you, Johnny Callas hasn't had to do anything. They shouldn't even pay him. It's hysterical. And Harold I knew very well, and his incredible daughter. But my thing is the greatest reward I get is when I'm able to officiate, be as less involved, and both these boxers bring out their best. There's a fight I did at Foxwoods with Oscar Diaz.
Okay.
Who you're familiar with.
Yes, sir.
And Speedy Gonzalez.
Oh.
It was a rematch. And Lou Duve is in one corner and Jerry Reed's in the other. And both of them come to me separately, say, don't stop this fight. Because there was a situation where a doctor ran into the ring, let's just say prematurely, a week before. And they said, you can't let that happen. So I went to the then commissioner at Foxwoods. I said, listen, man. He says, don't worry, Johnny. We're not going to, no, you're in charge, blah, 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 blah. So now there's a rematch between them, greatly evenly matched. What a great fight. Not even for a title. Absolutely phenomenal. A close decision. Oscar Diaz wins. And I tell you, I love the fight. I just love the fight. Probably nobody even knows about it.
So
one of the judges actually wrote to the commissioner, and which isn't done. Nobody's putting their neck out for another official.
Yeah.
I mean, it's you're only as good as your last fight. And George Smith, the writer and a great judge, actually wrote a letter to the commissioner complimenting me, which is so beautiful.
So are you a fighter's ref? Would you say that?
I would say ask the fighters, and I would think, I don't know, you tell me. I think I'm totally a fighter's referee. Yeah.
Awesome.
I've been told that by Kenny Reels, the great commissioner from Foxwoods, and I love that. He's come up to me before he goes, fighters love you. Fighters love you. So.
Where do you see, boxing a little different than any other sports? We have judges, we have referees. You watching the fights, from not watching it, being in the ring as a referee, have you seen fights where they've been judged differently than what you may have seen in a fight? And why do we see so much difference in some of the judging today?
Sure. Listen, I will never criticize a judge. I'm not a judge. I'm not doing their job. I'm not in a position to do their job. They're sitting there. I mean, there's been a few times, I would say only like a handful of times, actually. I don't know. Well, I have 300, 500 fights, whatever. Probably a little more than a handful where I'm like, wow, I had this other kid. From a boxer's perspective and a coach's perspective, as a referee kind of going around there, I'm like, I got this kid winning, and then I'm like, wow, okay. But I would never, especially our judges. Yeah, they're the greatest judges in the world.
Listen.
And by the way, John Burns created all those great officials. From Glenn Feldman to Don Trella, to Steve Epstein, who's no longer with us, to, just Mike Ortega, Danny Schiavone. I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah, there's a lot of, if you look at a lot of,
forgetting a ton of them too.
Yeah, you look at a lot of fights around the world, you'll see a lot of people, judges out of Connecticut.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Obviously, Don Trella. Yeah. Everybody knows him. Yeah. Glenn Feldman. Big Frank Lombardo.
I love Frank.
And
Frank's. I don't know if this is public knowledge, but Frank's getting in the Connecticut Boxing Hall of Fame this year.
Awesome.
Major, long overdue, major props.
Awesome.
Yeah.
You know, he's a Connecticut resident. You know, I had the opportunity to meet him through Steve Acunto many times.
Yes, Steve.
And, you know, actually, Steve's son taught me in elementary school.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, you know, there was that connection there. Where do you see, you know, we'll hit the judges, and this is just your opinion now in boxing. Where do you see judging going? Do we see a change? It is a very, very, you know, we're at fights, and we both know.
Sure.
People don't understand. When you're working that corner, that fight goes fast. There's stuff being missed. You know, I'll go home and I'll watch a fight and say, wow.
Sure.
You know, and it moves quick, and these judges are right up there. But, you know, there's a lot of difference in scoring now.
Yeah.
Is it the CompuBox? Is it the, you know...
the CompuBox was so big 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Now it's barely even mentioned.
Yeah.
And those two guys were a lot of fun, too.
Yeah.
Who invented it. In the early days of my refereeing career, there was at Fox, was always at Mohegan, everywhere.
Yeah.
And now it's not even much, I don't think it has much influence, unfortunately. I thought it was kind of cool. But yeah, I mean, it's tough because there's always going to be a level of subjectivity in the judging. I mean, that's clear. That's the way it is. And, you know, actually, Glenn Feldman, what fight was it? He was called in where everybody was up in arms over the decision. They felt it was way too lopsided, so they contacted him. They contacted a few of the 8 other great judges and said, okay, we want you to judge this fight. And what it came down to was, and they do this thing, like at the WBC convention, a pyramid.
Mm.
As long as your decision-making is up on the top of the pyramid, then it's reasonable and acceptable. You know, you don't want to be an outlier way down here. It's a death sentence for a judge sometimes. So what he explained to me is, okay, and I may have been the Pacquiao-Mayweather fight. And he said, so I looked at these rounds, 12 rounds. 5 of them could have gone either way legitimately. And that's the catch. That's the catch. You can't say, well, how can one referee have it one way or one judge the other way and the other one? When there's 5 rounds that can make the difference in the fight. So it was an education for me, and you know what? Yeah,
it's a tough job.
It's the toughest job in the world.
It's and look, everybody's so fast to say, what were they watching the fight? What were they? You know, they're obviously skilled and trained to see certain things that you know the fan is not.
Yeah,
and you know, it's different than any other sport.
Absolutely.
There's no instant replay. Right, like we say.
Well, they tried to.
They're trying to put it
good, but only the well-off commissions can do it.
One question there: do you think we'll ever see them telling the score after each round who's winning? It's been talked about a little bit, right?
Well, it's done in the amateurs, as you know.
Is it a good thing or a bad thing?
I'm old school, pure school. I'd rather not, because in the amateurs we do it, and we did it. And it ended up very much affecting how the purity of the sport and how a boxer would, especially when they were doing the stupid point totals, which are absurd because it couldn't reflect. The computer it ruined the sport because a kid would get 5 points, like he only landed 5 punches.
Yeah.
Because 5 guys couldn't hit the button at the same time.
Yeah.
And then, you know, he'd get 5 points, and then, okay, I'm set, and just cruise around. He'd win the fight.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't want my fighter. I don't want my fighter knowing, you know, if you know, good fighters know if they're ahead in a fight.
Absolutely, absolutely.
You know, and if a fight's close, the trainer's going to say, "Hey, the fight's close."
That's part of our relationship.
We need to know. We need to know what's going on also in that corner as far as it. And you're right, it takes away from the purity of the sport. Yeah. But we kind of do a couple of things here on Coach's Corner towards the end here when we wrap it up. And first of all, why don't you tell everybody where we can find you guys at Charter Oaks and
absolutely
your social media.
Yeah.
If they want to, they want to cut you a check and send it up there.
That'd be great. I mean, we do great stuff, but we can't do it without everybody's help.
Right.
And it definitely, it doesn't just take one village; it takes many villages.
100%.
We were very blessed to be recognized by Leadership Greater Hartford a couple months ago for our commitment to the community, which is pretty cool, pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And I said that. I said, yeah, people, it takes a village. No, it doesn't take a village. It takes multiple villages.
Yeah,
the city.
A lot of layers.
This, that. But we are at 81 Pope Park Highway, which is not a highway. I'd like to get it closed off, actually, because I'm shocked and we haven't had a tragedy. People
flying through there.
Through there. It's a cut through. So, but,
if you're going north on 84, you can see them to the left.
Absolutely, that was by design.
Yep.
I used to be a promoter, not boxing, but a marketing guy.
Yep.
That was totally by design. Unbelievable. That strip of highway has the highest 286,000 pre-COVID. 286,000 people go back and forth on that highway Monday through Friday. So I said, we are putting a billboard up on our building so that everybody could see it. So that was by design, and that's another reason why we have no problem getting
and you
getting
got the
kids.
You got the blue and gold rocking over there,
rocking the blue and gold. The Naval Academy blue and gold. But we're in the Parkville section. They knocked down the projects. 15, 20 years ago. We were displaced. We were supposed to get a place. The mayor, who is a friend of mine, didn't come through. These are all the things we boxing people go through. I mean, let me tell you, boxing is 10 times easier than running a gym, being a gym owner, and whatnot.
Yeah, like I said earlier, you're wearing many different hats here.
And talk about being knocked down, screwed over, stabbed in the back by other teams or code. Fortunately, we don't have that happening as much anymore. We have a beautiful group of guys like yourself and like Carlos Nieves, Martin, Martin, Louis Rosa, best amateur pro.
Connecticut is just, filled with great people, great gyms, like you said.
Yeah.
We could sit here all day long and name them all. There's so many people out there. Shout out to all of them. It's great to see our state because I kind of feel we get overlooked from New York.
Sure.
It's like Connecticut, but, we have some great fighters, amateur and pros coming out of here. Some great coaches doing great things out of here.
Absolutely.
People like yourself, referees, judges. We are a big part of the boxing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everybody says New York is the Mecca, yes, because they are bigger, but there are a lot of big names up here.
Hey, our kids from Connecticut and the amateurs are regularly at the nationals.
Yeah,
beating kids from New York.
We've had some world champions up here.
Absolutely, have some
world
on
the professional level,
champions, everything. We've always been in the mix, and like you said, was a great point. And then when you look at the other pieces, all the gyms we have, the integrity of our gyms, how good our coaches are, what we do. Then on top of that, the officials that come out of here. Yeah, we are a major contributor to the positive side of amateur professional boxing.
So where's Charter Oak social media?
Social media, we actually are on Facebook. You can put in Charter Oak Boxing Academy. In addition to that, we have a web page. So www.cobaboxing. That's it. It'll come up. And we're there, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. It's life. It is continual. It's the love, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
So a couple quick questions. I kind of bullet everybody out with my little thing here. Coach, if you were in a foxhole, who are you picking to be next to you with? And it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Out of any part of life, you have one person, you're in a foxhole.
Does it have to be a living person or
no, it does not.
Person? Okay.
It could be anybody.
All right. Alexander the Great.
All right.
Let's see.
That's your one.
That's my one and my boy Paulie Morasso.
All right. Well, we'll give you two. Three dinner guests.
Oh, that's awesome.
Who are they? Dead or alive?
As a Greek.
Dead or alive. Yes. 3 dinner guests you're going to sit down with. Who are they?
Alexander, Clinton, and Bill Murray.
You didn't catch him at the Yukon games.
I know. My best buddy growing up, who took a lot of wrath from me in the backyard boxing, is one of the top roadie teamsters there, and he ran into him, and it's like...
Yeah, well, his son's the assistant coach.
Yeah, assistant coach. Awesome.
Well, Coach...
Love Bill Murray.
Yeah, absolutely. Funny
Love
guy.
you more.
Love you guys. Listen, appreciate you very, very much.
Thank you.
I mean, it's a pleasure to have you on.
It's an honor and a pleasure to
You know,
be here.
and listen, if you're in the Hartford area, please check out Coba Boxing, you know, Charter Oak Boxing Academy, Coach Callas, and you'll see him probably soon on maybe on
Hopefully.
a pay-per-view or something, you don't know, or at the
Hopefully.
casino reffing.
Yep.
All right.
It's a blessing.
Thank you again. We'll see you in the next Coach's Corner.